integration in logical learning.
First War of Independence 1857 ICSE Class 10 History. A brief discussion about what we are going to learn today in this chapter. The chapter will discuss the First War of Independence 1857. The chapter will show the causes, centers, leaders, causes of failure, significance and consequences of the revolt of 1857. Introduction. The First War of Indian Independence was a period of rebellions in the northern and the central India against British power in 1857 to 1858. The British usually referred to the rebellion of 1857 as the Indian Mutiny or the Sepoy Mutiny. It is widely acknowledged to be the first ever united rebellion against any colonial rule of India. The rebellion began on 10th May 1857 in the form of a mutiny of sepoys of the Company's army in the garrison town of Meerut, 40 mi or 64 km northeast of Delhi, now Old Delhi. It then erupted into other mutinies and civilian rebellions, chiefly in the upper Gangetic Plain and central India, though incidents of revolt also occurred further north and east. The rebellion posed a considerable threat to the British power in that region. Mangal Pandey, a sepoy in the colonial British army, was the spearhead of this revolt, which started when the Indian soldiers rebelled against their British officers over violation of their religious sensibilities. The uprising grew into a wider rebellion to which the Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah, the nominal ruler of India, lent his nominal support. Other main leaders were Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi and Tantia Tope. The British cruelty put down the uprising, slaughtering civilians indiscriminately. Introduction. The Indian Rebellion was fed by the resentments born of diverse perceptions, including invasive British-style social reforms, harsh land taxes, summary treatment of some rich landowners and princes, as well as skepticism about the improvements brought about by the British rule. Many Indians rose against the British, however, may also fought for the British, and the majority remained seemingly compliant to the British rule. In some regions, most notably in Awadh, the rebellion took on the attributes of a patriotic revolt against European oppression. However, the rebel leaders proclaimed no articles of faith that presaged a new political system. Even so, the rebellion proved to be an important watershed in Indian and British Empire history. It led to the dissolution of the East India Company and forced the British to reorganize the army, the financial system, and the administration in India through passage of the Government of India Act 1858. India was thereafter administered directly by the British government in the new British Raj. On 1st November 1858, next comes the causes. The revolt of 1857 was the first joint revolt against the British. It was the end result of the already simmering discontent of the Indians against the policies of the East India Company. Let us discuss about the causes of 1857 revolt. Political causes was one of the first. Next comes the social and the religious causes. Third is the economic causes. Fourth comes the military causes. And the last or the least comes the immediate causes. We will discuss about the political causes first. Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General of India till 1848 to 1856. Under him, the British followed expansionist policy in India. Dalhousie, through his policies, had added considerable territories to the British Empire in India. The policy of annexation reached its climax when he implemented the policy of doctrine of lapse and annexed the Indian states on charges of misgovernance and absence of an heir. In the course of 8 years, Dalhousie annexed Satara in 1848, Sambalpur in 1850, Jhansi in 1853, Nagpur in 1853, Jaipur in 1849, and Bhagat in 1850. This policy enraged the Indian rulers against the British government. As part of the doctrine of lapse policy, the titles and the pensions of some Indian princes were confiscated. The pension of Baji Rao, its son Nana Sahib, was discontinued after his father's death, and Rani of Jhansi had been deprived of her right to rule in violation of the recognized Hindu law. Dalhousie further proposed to abolish the title of Mughal Emperor after the death of Bahadur Shah too. Religious causes. Another serious concern was the increasing pace of the westernization by which Hindu society was being affected by the introduction of Western ideas. Missionaries were challenging the religious beliefs of the Hindus. The humanitarian movement led to the reforms that went deeper than the political superstructure. During his tenure as Governor General of India, 1848 to 1856, Lord Dalhousie made efforts towards emancipating women and had introduced a bill to remove all the legal obstacles to the remarriage of the Hindu widows. Converts to Christianity were to share with their Hindu relatives in the property of the family estate. There was a widespread belief that the British aimed at breaking down the caste system. The introduction of Western methods of education was a direct challenge to the orthodoxy, both Hindu and the Muslims. This racial arrogance of the British hurt the Indian masses most, and then they began to regard the Englishmen as their worst enemies. The social legislations on the evils as sati, infanticide or remarriage of widows, etc., were considered as interference in the religious matters of Indians about which the Englishmen knew nothing. Now we will talk about the economic causes. First comes unpopular revenue settlement. The peasantry were never really to recover from the disabilities imposed by the new and a highly unpopular revenue settlement. Impoverished by heavy taxation, the peasants resorted to loans from the money lenders or traders at usurious rates, the latter often evicting the former on non-payment of debt dues. Number 2 comes the misery to the artisans and the handicraftsmen. British rule also meant misery to the artisans and the handicraftsmen. British policy discouraged Indian handicrafts and promoted British goods. The highly skilled Indian craftsmen were forced to look for alternate sources of employment that hardly existed, as the destruction of the Indian handicrafts was not accompanied by the development of modern industries. Third comes the zamindars. Zamindars, the traditional landed aristocracy, often saw their land rights forfeited with frequent use of a quo warranto by the administration. This resulted in a loss of status for them in the villages. Number 4. Drain of wealth. The British had drained India of all her wealth and natural resources by selfish economic policies. Then comes military causes. Indian soldiers in the British Army were looked down upon by their English officers. They were paid low salaries and not promoted above the rank of Subedar. According to the General Service Enlistment Act of 1856, Indian soldiers could be posted anywhere overseas in the British Empire. This was against their religious belief. Hindus believed that crossing the sea was a sin. The Indian sepoys were more in number than the British soldiers, which gave a sense of self-confidence to the Indians. There were more than 75,000 soldiers in the British Army from Awadh. These soldiers were enraged when Awadh was annexed to the British Empire on the grounds of maladministration by Nawab Wazid Ali. The soldiers had also certain grievances against the British. They were paid very low salaries. The Bengal army was regarded the backbone of the Indian army of the British. Mostly it consisted of the Rajputs and the Brahmans. But later on, British started recruiting people of lower castes also in it. That created dissatisfaction among the soldiers. The annexation of Awadh was not repugnant to the soldiers because three-fifths of them belonged to Awadh. Not only was the dethronement of the Nawab distasteful to them, but they also felt aggrieved because many among them indirectly lost certain privileges as their relatives were deprived of the patronage of Nawab. The soldiers in general were dissatisfied because they were asked to go for fighting to distant places without any extra remuneration and were not assigned any honor or reward after the success in the battle, as had been the case under the service of native rulers. In 1854, the soldiers were deprived of their privilege of postage-free letters. In 1856, Lord Canning passed the General Service Enlistment Act, which not only decreed that all future recruits in the Bengal Army, wherein service was hereditary, would be liable to the deputed not to be deputed anywhere, but also that all those who would be found unfit for the service in a foreign country would not be given pension but a job in the cantonment. The soldiers therefore felt that while their sons, desirous of joining the army, in all likelihood would lose their castes, then themselves had been deprived of a privilege to which they were entitled so far. The proportion of the Indian soldiers as compared to the British soldiers had increased in the army. The morale of the English soldiers was also at low ebb because of the odds which the British had faced in the Crimean War in Europe. Under these circumstances, the Indian soldiers felt that if they stuck at the opportune time, they had quite good chances to turn out the British from India. The Indian soldiers were spurred to revolt because of the realization of this fact. Now let's come to the immediate causes. The mutiny broke out in the Bengal army because it was only in the military sphere that the Indians were organized. The pretext for revolt was the introduction of the new Enfield rifle. To load it, the sepoys had to bite off the ends of the lubricated cartridges. A rumor spread among the sepoys that the grease used to lubricate the cartridges was a mixture of pigs and cow's lard. Thus, to have oral contact with it was an insult to both the Muslims and the Hindus. There is no conclusive evidence that either of these materials was actually used on any of the cartridges in question. However, the perception that the cartridges were tainted added to the larger suspicion that the British were trying to undermine Indian traditional society. Now we will going to learn about some centers of revolt and their leaders. Delhi, General Khan; Kanpur, Nana Sahib; Lucknow, Begum Hazrat Mahal; Bareilly, Khan Bahadur; Bihar, Kanwar Singh; Faizabad, Maulvi Ahmadullah; Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai. Now some causes of failure of the revolt of 1857. Limited territorial spread was one factor. There was no all-India veneer about the revolt. The eastern, southern and the western parts of India remained more or less unaffected. Certain classes and groups did not join the revolt. Big zamindars acted as breakwaters to storm. Modern educated Indians viewed this revolt as backward-looking and mistakenly hoped that the British would usher in an era of modernization. Most Indian rulers refused to join. By one estimate, not more than one-fourth of the total area and not more than one-tenth of the total population was affected. The Indian soldiers were poorly equipped materially, fighting generally with swords and spears and very few guns and muskets. On the other hand, the European soldiers were equipped with the latest weapons of war like the Enfield rifle. The revolt was poorly organized with no coordination or central leadership. The lack of unity among the Indians and the lack of coherent ideology and a political perspective. The significance of the revolt. It began with the mutiny of the Indian sepoys of the East India Company's army, subsequently joined by the peasants, artisans, marginalized farmers, common men, became the first national revolt against the Britishers. Almost wiped away the company's rule in India, British Crown took control of the administration of India from company after the revolt. For the first time belief of self-confidence developed in the minds of oppressed people by the Britishers. The new form of leadership developed by the peasants, sepoys and the artisans provided a substitution to the conventional feudal lords like Mughals, Marathas and others. Now comes the consequences of the revolt. Policy change. The Queen's Proclamation of November 1858 announced the policy of the British government to be followed from now on in India. It announced that the policy of the territorial extension was to be abandoned. The native rulers were assured of the safety of their territory, rights and honor if they cooperated with British. The right of a ruler to adopt a child in the absence of a natural heir was accepted. The government regarded the native rulers as the bulwark against the masses and henceforth followed a policy of protecting this reactionary segment of the Indian society. A policy of divide and rule was actively pursued to keep the Hindus and the Muslims divided. Administrative charges. On January 1, 1877, Queen Victoria was proclaimed as the Queen Empress of India, and the administration of India was transferred to the East India Company to the British Crown. India was to be administered by the Secretary of State and his 15-member council through the Viceroy. The Governor-General became the Viceroy and the representative of the Crown in India. Reorganization of the army. The army was reorganized to strengthen the British control over the country and avert any further rebellions in future. The number of British soldiers was increased and all the higher posts and key positions were filled up by the British. Communal and the racial bitterness. The revolt of 1857 created a big gap between the different religious communities, especially the Hindus and the Muslims, as each blamed the other for its failure. The Indians, however, developed a deep racial bitterness towards the English and opposed the interior status granted to them. Growth of nationalism. The origination of nationalism is one of the most distinguishing features of the second half of the 19th century. It originated from the concepts of nationalism and the right of self-determination initiated by the French Revolution, the socio-religious reform movements in India, as an offshoot of modernization introduced by the British in India and as a reaction of the Indians to the British colonial policies. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have any doubts or queries, you can put the same in the comment box below.